At 9:37 a.m., as we continue with the broadcast this morning on Salam Media News and Views, and how often have we seen the biblical justification for the occupation of Palestine? And in recent years, we've seen not only Israel, not only will the Zionist entity, but we've seen the term Christian Zionist feature very, very prominently. And again, the justification using biblical text as far as the Palestine Israel issue is concerned, the conflict as well, and just using the Bible to promote a certain agenda. Now, this is quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to this interview where we are talking with a Christian and a history teacher. And this article that has been written saying, Living Christian Zionism, I was blind, but now I can see. And we are now joined by Ncamisile Pamela Ngubane this morning, where she spent this article, and obviously a lot of misunderstandings that she said. She speaks about being blind. Now she can see. Ncamisile, good morning to you, and welcome this, and thank you for your time.
Assalamu alaikum to you and your
Walaikum
listeners.
salam. Wonderful that you're able to join us. Obviously, there's just so much in your article that we can unpack, that we can actually talk about. And looking at yourself, where you speak about where you became a Christian Zionist, later you became passionate about being a pro Israeli advocate based on certain readings or distorted readings of the Bible. Now, for someone who is a Christian and a history teacher, obviously you know your Bible and you know the text in the Bible as well. And just looking at the justification, the biblical justification, what was your understanding perhaps? And obviously later on, when you realize that, it's not what. All that is in black and white, but there's a lot more to it. Just take us through some of the issues that were playing out in your mind from a biblical perspective on this conflict.
So, Christian Zionism is successful in drafting in people who are not actually very knowledgeable of the Bible. So, I was born again, as they say in Christianity, in December 2019. And I started watching Christian television such as CBN, TBN, Daystar. There's a lot of Christian Zionist content in those channels. But as someone who was new to Christianity, I mean, I had been born in the Christian faith, but I left it in my teens. And now coming back and really starting to get into the Bible, I was confronted by Christian Zionist programming and not being aware of it and thinking that, by Christians not having an understanding of the Hebraic or Jewish roots of Jesus and Christianity, this is where I thought maybe we had lost the path, because there's a lot of problems in Christianity. Every Christian knows that there's serious issues in the faith. And so I thought that this was where we maybe had been missing the plot, is by not having this connection to the Jewish past. And so this is how I got into it. And Christian Zionism, I guess you could say its foundation is the promise that God made to Abraham, that he will bless those who bless Abraham and curse those who curse Abraham, and that through Abraham, all the families of the earth will be blessed. And so they say that they take this promise to Abraham and they attribute it to Israel. And they say, if you bless Israel, you will be blessed. If you curse Israel, you'll be cursed. And then they use certain instances in history to justify having this belief. And as someone who's new to everything and just happy to be a Christian again, you get totally sucked in, like, oh my gosh, look at what happened to this country because they blessed Israel, and look at what happened to this country because they cursed Israel. Then they bring it to South Africa and they say, look at the mess that South Africa is in, and look at its very anti-Israel stance. There must be a correlation. So this is very much the distorted use of the Bible. And if someone is very knowledgeable about the Bible, it's easy for them to completely dismiss these claims. But like I say, it's the people who don't really know what the Bible says that get sucked in.
Yes. Now, interesting that you mention Abraham, because, we talk of the Abrahamic faith, and we're talking of the three major religions. You're talking about Judaism, Islam, and you're talking about Christianity. And we all have our links, and we all revere the Prophet Abraham. I mean, in the Noble Quran, in fact, there's an entire chapter that is dedicated to Prophet Abraham, and it makes mention over and over. Now, that is the respect, the honor, and the reverence that we have for the prophets, for all the prophets that have actually been sent down. And again, this whole distorted view with regard to, Abraham exclusive to the Israeli or the Zionist agenda. And yeah, again, you make mention in your article about the state of Israel so special to God, the fulfillment of a biblical prophecy. And for me, that actually stands out. And this biblical prophecy is the reason why we see the situation in Palestine, and why we see the support from the Christian Zionists to Israel and the state of Israel and the agenda that's playing out.
Yes. So, another issue is that without a very strong anti-Islam message, Christian Zionism would not succeed. They go out of their way to portray Muslims as not praying to the God of Abraham. I mean, it's a serious thing. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed. Obviously, we don't have enough time here to get into it, but this is a serious issue. And, obviously, it's blasphemy against God to say that Muslims don't pray to the true God, but this is what's going on. And in that light, Israel today is very much portrayed as Israel 4,000 years ago, when Joshua and the spies went into the land and they took the land from the heathens who don't believe in God. This is actually what people are saying. They're saying tacitly that Muslims and Palestinian Christians are actually not either not praying to the true God or not understanding God properly. And that's how they are able to actually justify the very unjust oppression of the Palestinians by the Zionist state. And I say Israel's a Zionist state because it's not a Jewish state. If it was a Jewish state, it would be living according to the tenets of Judaism. And this is why, if you listen to someone like Avi Schleim, for example, the historian, he said when he was in Iraq as a Jew, Jews, Christians, and Muslims in Iraq were living in peace. Same thing as in Palestine. It's when Zionism came into the mix that this shocking conflict came in, and they were buttressed by Christian Zionism that said that the Muslims don't pray to the true God, and the Christians who have embraced their Muslim brethren as fellow believers in God are practitioners of something called replacement theology, which is a false theology which says that God has transferred his blessings, like we say the blessings of Abraham, from the Jews to the Christians. And so they claim this is a false doctrine which makes their Christianity invalid. So
Yes.
yeah.
Also, I think, while you are on the subject of Christianity, and many are of the opinion, of the view that this is a Muslim Jewish issue that is playing out in Israel. But what many don't realize, and I'm sure that Christian Zionists themselves, I don't know to what extent they acknowledge the fact that Palestinian Christians are suffering as much as the Arab Muslims in Palestine, and also looking at Jerusalem. I mean, the holy city of Jerusalem, which is obviously very holy to both Christians and to Muslims, and that is under threat. And you also speak about this in your article, where you speak about the world agreeing that Jerusalem is the eternal and undivided capital of the Jewish state. And we're not talking about a Jewish state, of the Zionist state, as you allude to. So many people are not aware of the fact of challenges that Christians themselves have actually faced, and how many Christians have actually had to leave. Many of them are out of Israel, out of Jerusalem, for this very reason, that they were being persecuted just as much as the Muslim Palestinians.
Yeah, so it's extremely inconvenient. If you do raise the issue of Palestinian Christians, you're going to be told they're not real Christians because they don't attribute to the Jewish people their rightful place, right? And then they'll say things like, well, those Christians are obviously not blessing Israel. That's why God is allowing them to suffer. Now, this is completely like a shocking misinterpretation of the Bible. And I think such kinds of things are the reason why the church in Norway, for example, has declared that Christian Zionism is actually a heretical doctrine, right? In the Bible, Jesus says that the people who he considers to be his family members are the people who believe in God through the acceptance of his teachings. And so he says, whatever you do to one of my brethren, his followers, his disciples, is what you are doing to him. So if a Christian Zionist was actually honest, they would realize that what they are allowing to happen to the Palestinians in the name of blessing Israel is what they would allow to happen to Jesus in the name of blessing Israel. And so the reason why in my approach to this, I have really focused on Christian Zionism is because as a Christian, my belief system is being abused in the service of the Zionist state. And also innocent Christians who really, like me, want to be on the right side of God's prophecy are being abused and being misled right now as we speak. And so, prophecy says that the Messiah is going to come. According to the Christian Zionism, he's going to rule from Jerusalem. I don't know if that's actually biblical, but nonetheless, everyone wants to see this tyrannical, satanic world order overthrown. Of course, who wouldn't? Child trafficking, drugs, this economic system, which is basically a slavery system. Who doesn't want to see that overthrown? But, they attribute that that's only going to happen when Jerusalem is the undivided capital of the Jewish people, and then the Messiah is going to rule the world from Jerusalem. And so they use a very deep yearning that we have to see a new world, and then they use it to justify Zionism, which obviously it's not a biblical faith, and the Zionists themselves don't even believe in God. Like Ben Gurion said, we don't believe in God, but we believe that he gave us the land. So it's very twisted, it's very heretical, and I really would love it if I could reach Christians and help them understand that your faith is being undermined. And Christianity was also used to justify slavery, apartheid, and colonization. And now it's being used to justify this oppression of the Palestinian people. So as Christians, we need to take responsibility for this, just like the Christian Zionists tell us to take responsibility for how Christianity was used to justify the Holocaust.
Pamela, I'm sad that we just have limited time, really, and I'm because I think there is just so much you can bring to this discussion. You can bring so much value, and I know in your article you speak at length about many of the other issues. You speak about the settlement expansions. You speak about the Israeli Defense Force. You talk about the persecution of the Palestinians. Now, obviously, a lot that we can actually talk about, but unfortunately, time is of the essence. But just before we end off, and I would like to actually at some point in time engage with you in a more detailed discussion, possibly even a panel discussion with other members to put this entire discussion into context. But just at what point in your life, and you say, I was blind, but now I can see. At what point did this realization come to you, Pamela?
So I did have initially some sort of worries about the theology that we were engaging in, but I kind of thought, no, whatever, didn't think too much of it. But it was when this new government of Benjamin Netanyahu was sworn in, with the likes of Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, I realized that, oh my gosh, as a Black woman and as a Christian, there is absolutely no way I can be on the same side as these two racist, you could even call them sociopaths. I mean, you saw Ben Gvir on the Temple Mount, so-called Temple Mount, Al-Aqsa complex, yesterday, totally disrespecting not only Judaism, which says you're not allowed to go there, and also disrespecting the Palestinian people, the Muslim world by going there. So I had said to them, to my colleagues and my bosses, I said, guys, as Black Christians, we cannot support this. And I said, let's start talking peace with the Palestinians and their supporters, because then we can show that as Christians, we believe in Jesus as the Prince of Peace. And I started to doing research. Now, what you have to understand is that when you're in the Christian Zionist mold, you are being fed nothing but Christian Zionist propaganda. When you're in the Zionist associations, you're being fed nothing else but Zionist propaganda. You need to consciously get out of that and go and listen to other people's perspectives. So I started looking at Edward Said, Ramzi Baroud, Hanan Ashwari, Ilan Pape, Miko Peled, all sorts of other people like that. And that's when I started to see that, okay, beyond Ben Gvir and Smotrich is actually a very dark side of Zionism, which we are not exposed to, obviously. and which is actually a settler colonial state. And then when you look at how people like Francesca Albanese are being treated and vilified for talking the truth about the plight of the Palestinians, then you start to see that actually you've been manipulated. And this is when I said, well, I actually do believe in God, and I can't just pretend that I haven't seen what I've seen. I did try to steer the organization towards peace talks, but I saw that I actually can't win in this context, and I need to exit and start to tell my fellow Christians the truth about the situation.
Well, I must say it's been absolutely fascinating engaging with you this morning in conversation with yourself, Pamela. And like I said, at some point in time, I need to hold you to a more detailed discussion on Wednesday nights. Generally, I hold a detailed panel discussion, and I'm sure with people like yourselves and perhaps one or two others, we could actually explore this topic in a lot more detail because I think we've just basically scratched the surface. We've touched the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure there's a lot more. So hopefully, at some point in time, we'd like to extend this invitation to you. But for now, we thank you. We do appreciate your time, and God keep you blessed. All the best to you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And yes, I would definitely love to engage further. Like you say, it's an important issue. And, just want to end up, the reason why Mandela said we are not free until the Palestinians are free is because this is the last bastion of settler colonialism in the world. We are when you saw the Durban conference happen in 2001, it was because we needed to overthrow global colonization system. And this is what Israel represents. And so totally, I'm in this fight for the decolonization of all the people of the earth in the name of God and humanity. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you once again. Take care.
Thank you.
Ncamisile Pamela Ngubane with us this morning, and I must say a fascinating discussion right here on Asala Media and exposing Christian Zionism and the agenda behind the support of Christian Zionism to the Zionist entity called Israel. The time is just gone 9:54. We've got one more discussion coming up with the CEO of the South African National Muslim Women's Forum, Shamshad Sayed.